What's up, fam, and welcome back to True Salad TV. So today we're doing Saving the Children Part 2, and with that, I'm going to start us off with what to expect when kids go back to school based on some things that we've seen for kids in school and in daycares. If you're not already aware of what your state and or district is doing and you have a child, please look into it. Please. So here we go. This is what you can expect.
I also want to thank you for having us pause for a moment of silence because it grounds us in the real. I think oftentimes academics and other folks like to get caught up in the ideas, and it prevents us from being grounded in the real lives of people. I'm going to quote my father, Lavelle, and I've quoted him before, and one of his famed sayings is, and he also says, boy, boy, if we don't change directions, we'll end up where we're headed. And that has always stuck with me about the ways in which we engage in social justice activist movements. Dr. Brown also knows that in my dissertation, I did not write about timelines. I don't believe time is linear, nor do I believe there's a natural progression of progress. Rather, I write about time loops, the way in which time folds back on itself. And similar to what Dr. Scorza said, I was a college student in 1992 in Rochester, New York, watching Rochester also riot at that point in time, much like they are today. I remember similar protests in 2007, and here we find ourselves in 2020, experiencing much the same thing. And we can go back further, and hopefully we won't have to go forward, but I'm very much aware of the way in which time folds back on itself, and here we are. One quick thing that has shaped my thinking is a colleague of mine once wrote that George Floyd did not die because he was Black. George Floyd died because of structures of white supremacy. And that was powerful for me to change the narrative, for me not to focus on one's skin color or Blackness, but to put it back onto structures of oppression. And I think far too often we talk about, and sometimes rightfully so, the experience of Black folks or my Latinx colleagues, and not enough talking about forms of white racism which exist in this nation, or heteronormative homophobia, right, or classism, whatever it may be. But I think partly what's related to schools is we oftentimes talk about Black students and too little talk about the structures of racism, which in many regards ensure there's because he was Black. George Floyd died because of structures of white supremacy. And that was powerful for me to change the narrative, for me not to focus on one's skin color or Blackness, but to put it back onto structures of oppression. And I think far too often we talk about, and sometimes rightfully so, the experience of Black folks or my Latinx colleagues, and not enough talking about forms of white racism which exist in this nation. Or
So hopefully you caught what I was trying to show you there. That was actually on Discover Education, I believe it's called, or Discovery Education Zoom meeting that I went to as like kind of a equity talk through my school. Anyway, so here's Desmond the Awesome getting ready for a drag show, you know, the child abuse that's hefted up and glorified by society. And here's a 5G tower, among other wrong things in this picture. But anyway, if you didn't know, there are cell towers, likely 5G towers, near a lot of the schools in the ground and above it and just next to it, really close to it. And all cell towers have been proven to be unhealthy, especially for children. So it's interesting that they're putting them there, isn't it? And here's something else, some emails from my superintendent at my school district. And it's just interesting to me how they are still shutting this down at this point, this hard, when they're trying to say that they're going to bring kids back in the fall. And I'm like, how? I mean, at least the grade I teach, it's old enough where we can do virtual learning, but I'm like, I don't understand. They're probably going to have to shut the whole school down like every other day for people testing positive with these false tests and everything. So, whatever. Let's switch gears, look into Disney. There's a new show called The Owl House, and as you know, they've been trying to put occult symbols and push demonology and Satanism and all this other stuff for a very, very, very long time. And I'm kind of like, I wasn't aware for a long time myself, but this is like the most in your face that they've been with it. And it's just really interesting, like, that they were like, oh, Disney was even unsure. Like, we kind of pushed the envelope. And I'm like, really? Did you have to push the envelope? I'm pretty sure they kind of embraced it anyway. I've seen a couple people trying to naysay this and say, oh, it's not that bad. I watched the show. But I did attach some pictures. I didn't watch the show myself, nor let my kid watch the show, but I did find some pictures via Google that I'm going to attach here so you can judge for yourself and decide what you think. But especially with the first picture, I mean, it's blatantly obvious to me. So let's see. Yeah, nothing to see here, right? Nothing to see here. That one's kind of not that bad, I guess, but bad enough. Not as bad as the first one. But look at this one. Yeah. Changing gears just a tiny, tiny bit. Here's some examples of symbolism at a Disney park. Then I have some person who works at a Disney something. I don't know what that is necessarily, but they're on Disney. So Moana, I love that movie, and I'm so sad about the symbol because the movie is so good. And here we go, Fisher Price toys. And some people who watch me probably don't even know what these symbols mean. They're like, okay, it's a swirl. What's a big deal? Okay, it's a triangle. What's a big deal? But then once you know, you kind of can't like go back and accept it. And what's crazy is like, okay, so the symbols are here, whatever. But like, do you realize how many children's clothing and such have this on it? It's ridiculous. I had no idea. That and like, I love pizza myself, and now I'm afraid to have anything with pizza on it for my kid. And that sucks. So those of you who might not know what it was, here's the little triangle swirly that is for boy lover. The one that's like a swirly symbol is a little boy lover. The butterfly is a child lover, and the heart is a girl lover. And just for context, these are children. This is the pedophile symbols. It's not for like, oh, boys like a teenage boy necessarily, or like a boy in the 20s. Anyway, okay, so Nickelodeon had this whole like thing happen, and so I took a couple screenshots of someone who shared this, and the one that's the most interesting to me is the last slide, because they're talking about how everyone's opinions and everything else need to be valued, but you know these people like don't value dissenting opinions and feelings. So it's kind of just like, do what we say you should be feeling and everything else, and don't think for yourself. So I don't know. Take it as you will. That's how I took it. And here we go with some loopy parents who don't want to have their kids go back to school. So I guess we're going back to school now again, until the vaccine. But I'm kind of jumping gears into vaccines again. I guess it's a trend in almost every video that I'm going to mention vaccines. But these people are kind of crazy pants, and they're like, yeah, look how many kids I have, and they're not going to go to back to school until they get a vaccine. So there you go with that. And some places are going to mandate vaccines. I know you've heard Trump try to say, oh, the vaccine won't be mandated, blah, blah, blah. And those of us who are aware of certain things and certain states and countries that have laws where you can't go anywhere unless you have like a tracing app or give them all your information, social credit systems, all that stuff, like maybe you weren't aware that this is going to be a thing, but if you don't end up getting the vaccine when it comes out, you're not going to be able to do anything. So it basically will be spelled out as mandated, even if it's not spelled out to be mandated. But they want it to actually be on paper saying it's mandated. So I just think it's crazy, especially places like New York, where they're like, yeah, even the flu you have to get. And yeah, we don't care if you have religious exemption. It doesn't matter here, or philosophical or personal exemption, which is ridiculous. I don't like it. You should be able to decide what to do with your body. Speaking on what you think you should be able to do with your body and the body of your child, you can, allow them to make their own choice when they turn 18, or just have the schools and everyone else teach your kids how to get vaccinated if they want to be vaccinated and your family says no. Try to change their mind. Why don't you lie to them? This is how you should lie. Like, honestly, really? These are kind of getting sped through, so you might want to pause and read them, but I just thought it was interesting, so yeah. And then we're so scared of the viruses, but let's inject them into babies. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I almost forgot to put this in. All right. CDC recommends newborns be tested twice. So once within 24 hours of being born, second time within 48 hours of being born. Like, really? Okay. Anyway. Then it says that if they are tested negative for COVID, then they have to stay still 6 feet apart until the second test from their parents. But if they test positive, they don't recommend keeping the babies in the hospital. So what would they recommend then? Because it doesn't say anywhere in this article what they recommend. Do they get to go home with the parents and not have to be social distance? Is that what's going on? They don't have to be in the hospital? Like, honestly, that is the dumbest thing that I think I have read. Out of all the dumb things, that's the dumbest thing I think I've read in, like, I don't know, at least a week. At least 1 week. Anyway, here's some articles about other ways that they take your children and do things with them. So I'm just going to let you read these. I know I'm not putting sound in here because I haven't figured out how to move the music so that it covers it the way that I want it to cover it without just, it's very difficult for me. So until I get a handle on it, there's going to be like a tiny little while where you're just reading along and I'm not talking. And then it will go back to me talking. So just hang tight and read this stuff, okay? All right, last thing. I know this is old. This was actually my memories, but um, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a thing like a year ago where parents were trying to feed their babies food, and if they didn't eat it, they like beat up the toy. Not cute. It is child abuse in my eyes and just disgusting. So, yeah, let's not do that in case people are still doing it. So, the bottom line to me is protect your children, protect your kids. They are your kids. Don't try to let anyone else tell you what to do with your kids or force you to do things you don't want to do to or for your kids. Like, don't sell them out, don't poison them. Just because someone says they could do X, Y, and Z doesn't mean you should have them do X, Y, and Z. Don't let them watch indoctrination stuff. Don't have them watch this crazy, like, monitor what your kids watch, honestly. It's not that hard. Anyway, love the children and let's protect them so that they don't have to go through all this crap. That would be great. And of course, at the end of every video, I put a meme up for you. So this one's really not that much of a meme, but I thought it was so cute. As long as I'm living, you'll always be my baby. And I have a little one who's 7, and he still sits on me like this and jumps on me like a crazy person. And I know I still lay on my mama. Anyway, True Salad TV. Like and subscribe. Peace.